Because I'm going on vacation to a private island where they specialize in toe enlargement surgery, this will be my final 30th Celebration preview video until the full set list review in early September. The good news is that I'll still be uploading videos in August. They'll just be more variety-ish Pokemon content designed to expose myself to as many people as possible. As a reminder, 30th Celebration will have 128 cards before Secret Rares. 30 of those are Pikachu, yet apparently there's 0 Pichu or Raichu cards in the entire set. We know this thanks to several leaks that have sprung up over the past couple of weeks, and by leaks I mean literal full pack openings that have been posted everywhere. Before I get started, let me just mention that I won't be showing the actual leaked card images. For starters, a lot of them are blurry and hard to read. Additionally, I don't want my cheeks to get clapped by Daddy Pikachu, so while I know it's stuffed and nowhere near the quality of Pokemon proxies, just go with it like you're in an Adam Sandler movie. Naturally, I'll start with the most interesting cards, which is kinda pathetic given how weak their power levels are. But that's what you get when you cater to the scalpers and not the people who know Pokemon cards have text on them. Surpassing Sprigatito EX in every way, the new Fuecoco EX has 210 hit points and an attack that can deal upwards of 350 damage for 2 fire and a colorless. Similar to Luxray and Mega Mawile, Fuecoco's Cheerful Flame does 70 damage times the number of prize cards you have taken. You can power it up thanks to Emboar or Oricorio EX if you have a Mega Fire type in play, meaning yes, Fuecoco is usable. However, we already have Reshiram EX. That guy does 130 base damage for the same energy cost plus 50 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. In most situations this is better, dealing 330 damage if they've taken 4 prizes or 380 if they've taken 5. Emboar and Oricorio can power it up, and because it relies on your opponent, you could be down 3-1 on prizes and swing for 380, KOing a Mega and winning the game. Whereas Fuecoco would only hit for 210 in that situation. Don't get me wrong, if we ever get a basic Fire Mega to activate Oricorio, Fuecoco will probably see play. Until then, Reshiram should be your first choice for a strong basic Fire-type EX who can deal a lot of damage. As someone who was a big fan of Wugtrio despite all the mental breakdowns it provided me, Mousehold kinda seems scary. For 1 of any energy, meaning it could be a miss, this guy flips a coin for each Mousehold you have in play. For each heads, you discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. You'll probably only live the dream of having 4 in play at a time once, but an average of 4 cards milled per turn is concerning. Because don't forget, colorless Pokemon now have access to Backtrack Badge, allowing you to reflip for a more desired outcome. But it doesn't end there. Fan Rotom helps give you a great start, while even a single copy of Bastiodon could stop them from dealing damage. Don't worry, it gets worse. On the Stadium side, every mill deck runs Neutralization Zone as their A-Spec. The whole goal is to discard all their Stadiums, then slap this guy down, making him immune to damage from EXs. Also, while I'm not entirely sure there'd be enough space, Legendary Summit coming in Delta Rain can fulfill a similar role, denying prize cards every time a Mousehold is knocked up. Run several Sacred Ash to shuffle in 5 Pokemon, and you can create an infinite loop. Neutralization Zone is much simpler though. But it doesn't change the fact that 30th Celebration will potentially put Mill back on the menu. Then there's the Pokemon way too many people call Illumise. Apparently the designers heard all my complaining about how broken weakness being ×2 is, while resistance is a seldom used -30. Because they're giving us a new Illumise that makes weakness ×3. Over the years we've had several cards that manipulate the amount of weakness. Kabutops from 151, Uxie from Unified Minds, and Vileplume from the Black and White era all turned it in ×4 instead of ×2. And there was even super effective Glasses, which was a ×3 tool. The reason you never knew Kabutops existed is that it was a stage 2 fossil, and Uxie required 3 different basics. With Illumise, this is the easiest Pokemon-based way we've ever had to change the amount of weakness, even if it is slightly weaker. Simply by having both Illumise and Volbeat on your side of the field, the weakness for both active Pokemon becomes ×3. Considering that we currently have a Volbeat who can bench 2 basics as early as turn 1 going first, this has some promise. The new 30th Celebration Volbeat, meanwhile, is Booty Cheeks, reusing Clefairy's switch-in attack along with a 90 damage Bug Buzz for 3 colorless. Problem is, there's not a ton of candidates for Illumise. Lily's Clefairy already one-shots Dragapult fairly easily. This combo does allow Moltres to one-shot Mega Excadrill, though you still need a Brave Bangle. Luckily, I have viewers who are smarter but not more handsome than me. Over on the VODs channel, multiple people suggested putting Illumise in a Rotom Toolbox deck. This way you can hit even harder for a Water, Fire, Grass, Psychic, or Lightning weakness. It'll still be tough to win considering that you also need Shaman or Psyduck on the bench in most matchups, plus Volbeat and Illumise. But with ×3 weakness, you only need 4 tools in play to deal 360 damage. Similarly, we're getting even more evolutions with 30th Celebration. Pair something like Espeon EX with Flareon and Leafeon, now you can take big KOs for 2 energy. And with access to Area Zero, the need for bench space isn't as troublesome. By far, the most common reply I received on Twitter had to do with Zoroark EX. With Volbeat and Illumise boosted weakness to ×3, any grass type can sneeze on Zoroark and knock it out. And the first person to one-shot a Zoroark with Badoo will live on in infamy. Basically, Illumise's ability offers up some new strategies even if they aren't particularly strong at the moment. Still, if we ever get into another situation before March 2029 where a deck like Dragapult owns a third of the meta, this guy will always be here to offer up a counter. We now have the official text for Gengar EX in 30th Celebration. If this guy's knocked out by damage, you flip a coin. If heads, their active is also KO'd. Maybe you could make some sort of weird Grimsley's move deck with Mega Gengar giving up 1 prize a turn while also sniping 13 damage counters anywhere. But I've spent way too much time playing decks like this. And trust me when I say it never works how you want it to. If you're a boomer like me who doesn't know what scuffed actually means, then you probably remember Seismitoad uppercase EX. 30th Celebration Seismitoad is a bit different, yet potentially even more annoying. A stage 2 for a single fighting Quaking Fist does 60 damage. That's whatever. During your opponent's next turn though, whenever they play a trainer card from their feet, they flip a coin. If tails, they discard that card instead of using it. So based on the wording, it seems like they'll be able to keep trying to use supporter cards until one works. Is this card actually going to be playable though? Probably not for normal people. Energy denial and control decks, however, well, I'm not excited about the possibilities. Rocky Fighting prevents effective attacks down to Seismitoad, and you can attach a handheld fan to move their energy around. Flip enough tails, your opponent will mill themselves out of all their resources while you sit back lotioning your toes. Worst of all, you could plop Neutralization Zone down at literally any point, and if they flip tails on their own stadiums, it will never leave. If you wanted to forego Neutralization Zone on its own as an actual deck, sure, Seismitoad could be annoying. But 60 damage isn't taking enough prizes. And if they flip heads for every trainer, you just wasted a lot of resources for no reason. So even when Badoo rotates in March, the most annoying trainer card Lockerer will be Jellicent EX, not Seismitoad. Sadly, that's the end of the exciting leak cards coming in 30th Celebration. There's still a couple dozen cards we don't know about yet, but it doesn't look like 30th Celebration and Delta Rain combined will come close to shifting the meta like Pitch Black has. Still, we all know you came here to watch me complain about how the Pokemon trading card game has been on a downward spiral ever since Mega Evolution base set, and like a pizza man when I want extra sausage, I'm here to deliver. So, do you remember the old unknown cards from Sun and Moon Lost Thunder that instantly won you the game by fulfilling seemingly impossible clauses? Well, if you didn't know, the hand and damage ones are banned and expanded because it's fairly easy to do over there. The missing unknown, meanwhile, well, there's a reason it's still legal. What I'm getting at is that Unknown Hand required you to have at least 35 cards in hand to instantly win the game. With 30th Celebration Gholdengo, you need exactly 30 cards in hand and all you get is 2 measly prize cards. To make the cards suck even harder, your entire hand is shuffled into your deck afterwards. Not only that, it's an attack, not an ability, and it requires a metal, not a colorless. Listen, I understand why they nerfed Gholdengo so hard compared to Unknown, but they took the tagline of nerf or nothing a little too literally because this card probably won't be anything. The main partner would, of course, be Alakazam, except that uses psychic energy, not metal. And unless you're playing on mobile, Pokemon TCG Live doesn't have a counter for how many cards are in your feet. So by the time you count to exactly 30, the timer will have already ended your turn because how dare you take time to complete actions. Just to boot, the only way Gholdengo will find a use is by taking your final 2 prize cards. Except if you get down that low, a special red card ruins your entire existence. Same with Unfair Stamp and Judge and Xerosic. Plus, 30 cards is more than half your deck since 10% of it is taken from you at the start of a game. While I appreciate the theme of Gholdengo, it would have been a lot more fun if they made it flip 30 coins and deal 10 damage for each heads or something. I know the common argument for why 30th Celebration will be a horrible set for competitive players is that it's for collectors. My counter argument is that people are paid to put text on Pokemon cards. Not only that, this entire group of people's jobs is to test all day and make sure new cards are balanced. Well, it seems like they got too scared by Dragapult being up to 50% of the meta because they're going in the wrong direction. 30th Celebration Ferrothorn does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon for 2 metal. That's nothing too special. We have a Raichu that does the same thing to anybody with a damage counter on them. Elsewhere, Salamence EX has the exact same attack. Tainlu can spread 30 if a stadium's in play, and even Cofagrigus can ruin someone's life by putting 6 damage counters on everybody with an ability. And let's not forget that Terras have a built-in bench barrier and Shaman protects all single prizers. So clearly the attack isn't game-breaking. Naturally, Ferrothorn freaking knocks itself out to do this. Yeah, if you launch Kaboom Needles, Ferrothorn does 130 damage to itself. There's a couple ways to boost its hit points, but the attack isn't good enough to warrant it. This is definitely a skip. The main issue with Groudon isn't the 5 fighting energy attack cost. I mean, Mega Zygarde already needs that for a nullifying 0. If you really want to do it, there's Mega Lucario to accelerate 3 from the discard pile or Barbaracle to give it 1 per turn. No, the main issue is what's the point? Fighting decks already have access to stronger, cheaper attackers like Baby Bloodmoon or Saluna and Okidogi and Okidogi again. 250 damage for 5 energy is unnecessary when you only need 90 to KO a Meowth, 110 for Pheasantipity, or 150 for Mega Kangaskhan. So in this instance, 250 damage for 5 energy just doesn't make any sense. On top of these guys, we're also getting another Groudon 2 months later in Delta Rain, which can deal 270 damage for 3 energy. Sure, it requires a legendary stadium, but I'd almost rather go in that direction. For the new 30th Celebration Lugia, it's much easier to deal 250 damage. While requiring a Fire, Water, and Lightning energy which are subsequently discarded might seem rough, don't forget we have Glass Trumpet and Crispin. And a Brave Bangle bumps Elemental Blast to 280, putting Zoroark EX in range. It's hard to know exactly how Lugia should be played right now, especially since you aren't a crafty nun and can't make a habit of using Glass Trumpet every turn. But considering you already need Fire, Water, and Lightning, Moltres, Stunfisk, and Mega Froslass or even Tier 2 to become potential partners. So even though it's overly complicated, you could make some sort of weird toolbox deck. I just think the only way Lugia would ever truly see play is if we get an experience share reprint, which might never happen. Continuing the trend of 250 damage attacks, we have our first new Komodo card in 7 years. Well, technically that honor belongs to the Komodo coming in Delta Rain that suddenly makes every dragon better since Japan is getting it before 30th Celebration. Anyway, like Primarina, it wasn't worth the wait. For 3 energy, it is a non-EX who does 250 damage. That seems insane until you remember Conkeldurr was better back in the day of last year, dealing the same amount for free. And in a Slowking deck, they can copy Metagross for 300 damage. So I think it's safe to say this won't tip the scales. Additionally, we learned about a new Scraggy, but not the Scrafty. For a single Darkness, it forces your opponent to shuffle draw 4. Maybe if Mega Scrafty was playable, it'd see some use. While we have to wait until November 5th to truly have a place for it, 30th Celebration Wishiwashi does have rogue potential. If you have a Wishiwashi or Wishiwashi EX in the active and it gets punched in the fishballs, their active takes 30 revenge damage for each baby Wishiwashi in play. Get all 4 down, that's 120. Well, it just so happens Wishiwashi EX is coming in Delta Rain, and its ability heals 50 damage from itself, which is up to 100 if Legendary Trench is in play. Let the EX tank a few hits and watch as you still get destroyed by Dragapult and Munkidori, just a little slower. If you want any hope of making this combo work, you need Misty's Vitality for energy, Hero's Cape for more HP, and multiple ways to protect your bench since Wishiwashi is so weak. Except you have to have 4 Wishiwashi in play at a time to make this whole thing worthwhile. Despite all the major downsides, I'm sure I'll make a list at some point, play it on TCG Live for 30 minutes, and hate every second. Paying homage to the Zekrom from Celebrations, 30th Celebration Zekrom does 80 base damage plus 80 more if it has any fire energy attached. Prism energy fulfills the clause, I just don't know if 160 damage for 3 energy is all that strong. You essentially have to play it with Crispin and maybe Counter Gain or Teal Masked Odorplant plus Energy Switch. If Mega Rayquaza defies expectations and becomes a top deck though, this is another counter, so keep it in the back of your mind. Also, while it wasn't shown off, I'm going to take a huge leap and assume Reshiram's attack is the exact same except for lightning energy. And if I'm right, you have to subscribe. Well, turns out you do have to be my sub. I wrote that blurb about Zekrom before the Reshiram leak, and yep, it's a mirror. For a Fire and 2 colorless, Laser Flame does 80 base damage. But if Reshiram has any lightning energy attached, that's up to 160. If you're playing a toolbox deck that struggles against Excadrill or Venusaur, absolutely put this in. Moltres with a Brave Bangle comes up short of a one-hit KO against both of them, making Reshiram a better option. So unlike most cards in this section of the video, we can put Reshiram in the maybe pile when it comes to playability. Before I get to the Pikachu, I need to edge you a little harder because there's a few more new 30th Celebration cards that suck. This Minior has literally the exact same attack as Cramorant, discarding all energy and sniping 120. Except Cramorant has more hit points and 1 less retreat cost. The only advantage to Minior is access to Glass Trumpet, but just about the only use for an attack like this is inside Matang, meaning Trumpet is useless. Further proving how allergic Creatures is to putting actually useful cards in 30th Celebration, Vivion's ability is like Mamoswine EX's. Once per turn, you can put a Pokemon from deck into your hand. Except it's a freaking coin flip. Like, who approved this card? The 7th different Koraidon card in Standard if you count the EXs, this one does 140 damage for 3 energy, losing 2 fighting in the process. Pitch Black just gave us a Koraidon that does 50 more damage for the same energy cost, making the new one redundant like toes on people who wear socks in the swimming pool. Now, obviously, they wouldn't give another legendary a terrible, unusable card that makes you wonder if they were blindfolded while coming up with the text, right? Well, I'll let you be the judge. 30th Celebration Zacian does 20 base damage for 1 metal, or 60 if it has a tool attached. And for 2 metal and a colorless, it does 120, but can't use Slashing Strike next turn. Compare that to other basic metal legendaries, and yeah, it's embarrassing. There are so many better lightning type Pokemon than Toxtricity. 150 damage for 3 energy isn't even that good to begin with. Add on the fact that it can't do anything next turn, and what's the point? Just stick with the new Baby Manectric in your Mega Manectric deck and push this card out of your mind. Finally, the new Kangaskhan. We see rage attacks that deal 10 more damage for each damage counter on the Pokemon all the time, yet the only time they see use is when it's a much higher multiple, except even then not really. I mean, have you played against a single Fuecoco EX deck since Pitch Black came out? Exactly. I was going to preview all 30 Pikachu coming in 30th Celebration, then I read every single one and realized just how bad most of them are. And despite there being 2 different Raichu in Standard right now, only one is marginally useful, yet no one uses it. Plus, we don't even know if Mega Raichus are ever actually going to happen, so there's not really a point to go in-depth with them today. Instead, I'll merely mention the absolute best competitive Pikachu, which laughs in Dragapult's face. Thanks to its ability, Keep Hidden protects Pikachu against damage and effects of attacks while on the bench. So even though it only has 60 hit points, it's safe from Phantom Dive pains as well as Kyurem and Slowking. This is by far the best Pikachu option for Tier 1 players like you and me who only occasionally forget how to read and do math. There are a couple 70 hit point Pikachu that either get energy from the deck or discard pile and put them into your hand. But unless Mega Raichu has a need for lots of energy, they're inferior. That being said, if you want to go full aggro, there is a Pikachu that does 40 damage times the number of Pikachu and Pikachu EX you have in play. Load your deck up with 4 Pikachu, 4 Terra Pikachu EX in Area 0, and you can one-shot a Dragapult EX once before they absolutely destroy you, because where's all that energy going to come from? To quickly sum up this video, it's pretty clear 30th Celebration is going to suck, which is ironic because it's a special set that has more cards than every other main set released in 2026. Of the officially revealed cards, these 4 are looking like the best, with Mew EX shaping up to impact the game in a major way, able to copy the attack of any Mega. As for what's been leaked nearly 2 months ahead of time, Illumise letting us hit for ×3 weakness is intriguing. Fuecoco EX might be playable at some point, Mousehold marks the return of Mill, and Seismitoad could be scary with Neutralization Zone since it might never get bumped. Ultimately though, for a set with 128 cards, we'll be lucky if 10% of them make any sort of impact on the meta. And for eagle-eyed viewers, you may have noticed that we haven't seen any new trainers. Considering that there's an Eevee at 118 and the Clay Arts, the Pokepad Switch, and Ultra Ball are the final 3 cards, it's possible we get like 1 or 2 new trainers in 30th Celebration. Which isn't very festive if you ask me. Come September, I'll talk about the full confirmed 30th Celebration set list while also previewing all the best new decks. What's fun about our first ever simultaneous worldwide release is that every list I cook up will be a Trust Your Pilot special. I can't just copy and paste the work of someone in Japan and pass it off as my own, so get ready to be covered in my special sauce. Before I go, one thing I want to rant about is how, at least for now, it appears as though 30th Celebration won't have any Mega Pokemon. Yet if you go back 5 years, Celebrations, our 25th anniversary set, had just 24 new cards, with 2 of them being VMAXs. Craziest of all, one of them won a major tournament. Yet the 3-prize gimmick when 30th Celebration rolls around is completely ignored. Unlike For the Win when he's wearing short shorts, that's not something I can get behind.